And we are live, so no more talking about that fungus that's on my... Oh, wait a minute. Shit. I only blew off 3 fingers this time with fireworks.
That's a 300 average, 10 fingers.
Yeah,
That's pretty good.
Bad. It's not bad. Oh, my
Can you play goalie? I hear there's an opening.
Too soon. Too soon. I do like how originally they called... Oh, he fell. It was a fall. 24-year-old guy fell and then died. I mean, that happens pretty constantly, doesn't it?
Yeah. You should listen to the Dick Van Dyke rerun with Gilbert and Frank that they put up this week.
Right.
It's pretty funny. Although I have reached the point where the fast forward button goes on with "Can I sing with you?" There's not it wasn't funny then.
No,
funny
and
now.
but they have to do it. We just have to do it because it's just we've done it and we have to do it.
Well, I mean, it's 5 years ago,
right? But he still does it, right?
I know. And it's dreadful. So instead of being an hour and 20 minutes, it's really only about an hour and 5 minutes.
And you did see my message that the Apple thing got worked out.
Yeah.
It's all good in the hood.
Look at the thing on the thing. See if the thing.
On the thing with the please. I've got the show on the Fox Nation to tell the black people to pull their pants up. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
All right.
I'm ready.
All right. Hey, it's the Brad and Britt cast. It's our first one in a few days. Thank you for joining us here. Everybody made it through the weekend safely. I certainly hope you didn't fly your American flag. It's pretty dangerous these days.
Mm-hmm.
But by the way, this is just kind of a general sidebar thing, and I know you don't get the Fox News alerts on your phone. Okay,
no.
I do. Okay, and it's like 20 times a day they distort a story in the notification like they do on TV, but it's kind of an art to do it. In just 12 words, and they do it all day long. A notification will come saying Kamala Harris is being criticized for blank, 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 and it could be trouble. Okay, it's all day long, that shit.
And it's never trouble, and it's always bullshit.
Right. Which I guess we would start off with this guy who had been with Fox with Rupert Murdoch at the beginning of the Fox broadcast network. He was with them for a long time, big guy. And he wrote over the weekend, or maybe it was on Monday, in the Daily Beast, he's pleading with Murdoch. Just stop it. You're fucking up the world. You're fucking up America. You're destroying everyone with news channel. It's wrecking the country. You know me. I know you. I know you better than you are not that bad. Stop. And of course, it ends on an optimistic note when the guy says, I know he's never going to change. He's 90 and there's no hope.
Right.
Aren't we
beyond the whole idea of him, please, Rupert, do this, or that the kids are going to moderate the channel? Aren't we beyond this kind of stuff?
It's not so much that. It's just that you're hearing it from all different angles. It's a recognition. It's a closing in of the real world, and I understand that the monthly take on how much money is the only thing that matters to this guy. After all, he is 90 and he has a lot of time to keep spending all the money that he's. I understand. I get it. You can never have enough money, Britt, as you know. You can't have enough, even when you're not. It doesn't matter.
Hey, I never got a job from a poor guy.
Right. Yeah, he's not going to walk in one day and say, yeah. I read a column by a guy who used to be one of my closest confidants from 20 years ago, and you know what? He's got a point. All right, that's it. We're done. Everybody's fired. We're going to start over. But we know that's not going to happen. That's no more likely to happen than for the shockingly high percentage of Republicans in this country, Trumpers and or Republicans, it's a big overlap, who are not vaccinated and who say they're not going to be vaccinated. The number now, it's kind of there. It's now like 85% Democrats vaccinated, 45% Republicans vaccinated. There's no other way to read that. There's no, it has nothing to do with politics. It's just they're a little bit more skeptical. No, it's fucked up. These people are fucked up, and Trump helped push it. But even Trump is not president anymore. But he's left behind this residue of idiocy that is endangering the country into sliding back into what I think, and I didn't have time to look at the actual pattern that the virus, the Spanish flu virus in 1918 took, when they thought they had it beat, and then the next year in 1919, it came back with a vengeance. Sound familiar? Guys like John Barry, who wrote the book all about the 1918 virus, he's been saying that was a possibility all along. And go back several months, 4 months, 5 months. Everybody who you think had some ability to have some authority on this has always said, we're not out of the woods. It's not over. It just, no, you can't do it. The virus has a mind of its own. The virus doesn't know apparently the virus does know what political party.
Yeah. There's a bias. There's an absolute bias.
Right.
Here.
Right. That's what is that going to be the excuse, Britt? Are they going to actually claim that the virus needs to be investigated? There needs to be.
I mean, these are jokes. These are jokes we used to make that are turning into Reddit threats that are going to control the country. I mean, there'll be an investigation over whether Joe Biden helped and Anthony Fauci created this thing in Wuhan to go after Republicans. That's going to be the latest Reddit threat, and there's going to be an investigation, and then you'll have to seriously ask a question. If somebody will be stupid ass Ducey will ask a question of Joe Biden. Would you be in favor of an investigation to find out if the Wuhan virus was created to target Republicans? And then he'll whisper. He'll whisper into a microphone, and people will go crazy and say that that's just another sign that he's demented and he has no brainwaves at all. That'll be the next outrage, right?
Nice setup and nice following along the pattern. We have a little pattern right in front of us here. We can fit in almost any subject we need to, and
as they say, as Forrest Gump said, I'm not a smart man, but I do know the playbook. I mean, I'm aware of what their playbook is. I want to play a new game because sometimes you come with a list of topics and you're like this, and do you want to pick this first? I want to play a new game called "Is It Too Stupid for Us to Talk About?" Okay, are you ready to play? Because sometimes I'll bring up a topic and go, "No, that's just too stupid for us to talk about." So I will flash a picture on the screen for those of you who are watching. For those of you who are listening to this on demand, I will explain what's going on. Brad will decide, is this too stupid for us to talk about?
Go ahead.
Mr. MyPillow Mike Lindell sets an August date for the bonkers Trump reinstatement theory. Get these communists out. Brad, I ask you, is that too stupid for us to talk about?
Yes, but let's talk about it.
We will now go take the low road as we talk about Mike Lindell, the former crack addict who is now apparently Donald Trump's big cheerleader in the world.
Right, because I fully admit I have not seen that story. That makes it better. That makes it better. When you throw something at me that for some reason is that from today or is that from over the weekend?
July the 5th, so it was all the way yesterday.
Yeah.
So here's Mike Lindell, who has been talking about a mid-August, they're going to reinstate it, maybe reinstated. Apparently the tanks will roll right into Tiananmen Square. DC, and there will be Supreme Court decisions and the angels will descend from the heavens. And not only that, he's got a date certain. Go ahead, mark your calendars, flip your calendars. It's August the 13th. Apparently something will be happening. Decisions coming down. Not only is Donald Trump going to be reinstated as president, which totally is legal and right in line with the precepts of our Constitution, but apparently there are some down ballot senators who will also be taking office, and the Democrats will be set to lose the United States Senate, Brett.
Oh, so like in Georgia, the Raphael Warnock and John Ossoff will be tossed out, and the cheerleader and the idiot David, what the hell was his name?
Oh yeah, I know what you're Purdue. Yeah,
Purdue. They will get their get. Is that what's going to happen? Okay.
Apparently this is what's going to happen, and Lindell, of course, has some sort of cachet among really insane people.
No. Who does he have cachet? He has cachet among no one.
Well,
see, that's.
I wish that were true.
I can confidently say that he has a constituency of none, maybe one, and you can't even say down in Marlow. He's not there anymore, right? He's gone for the summer. Wherever
he's up in Jersey. He's up in Jersey, I think,
or he's in the stupid tower in Manhattan. And by the way, I know it's a little soon to say this. The wrong tower fell. Okay, let's continue.
As we come up on 20 years, hashtag too soon. Yeah. The wrong tower fell. Oh, that's horrific. Yeah, so that
all right. So see, here's
any
the
further discussion?
No. See, on a story like that, we shouldn't talk about it. We just did, but what we need to do is we need to not give it any longer amount of examination than it deserves. You got another one? That's too stupid?
As a coda, I will say it does remind me of those preachers that would say the end of the world is coming on February 15th or whatever. And then it would come and they would, no, I was wrong, March 8th. And then it would keep kicking the can down the road.
I think we need to apologize to all goalposts who are invoked here, where you keep moving the goalposts for the end of the world. No, you go to a football game, they don't move the goalposts. The goalposts are always down on the 0-yard line, and nobody's moving those goalposts. So, okay, next story.
This one is a personal pet peeve of mine, and it may not be too stupid for you. It's Sha'Carri Richardson, the young lady who has been suspended by. She qualified for the Olympics as a sprinter. She tested positive for pot. She said she smoked the pot because she was feeling a lot of anxiety because her mother had just died. She's been kicked out. Now, my pet peeve on this is that the quote that they're showing from Joe Biden is the rules are the rules. And that's it. And Joe Biden is a hard ass, and Joe Biden hates black people, and Joe Biden doesn't understand this woman's pain. The full quote was not just that. The rules are the rules. He continued, whether they should remain the rules is a different issue, but the rules are the rules. I think that entire quote is very different than just saying, fuck you, you get what you get, and sit on the sidelines and pound salt. Do you agree with me, or do you think that that's fine?
No, I agree. And you know how the world works. If you play he took me out of context game, you always lose, because we do not have the mental capacity to want to know more than what upholds whatever prejudice we have or predisposed position that we have on anything. Clearly, I think the first thing that I thought of, I'm sure you thought of it, probably you thought of it if you're listening or watching when you heard the story, was, wait a minute. They will ban you from sports like running, where it's all about speed, where it's all about energy, if they detect some marijuana in your system. And I have enough experience with marijuana, and so do you, and even if you don't have experience with marijuana, you've seen enough movies where they act it out. That there is not a lot of upside in terms of energy level and initiative and speed, running speed, swimming speed, jumping speed involved. In other words, it's not a performance enhancing drug. It's not even close to that. So you get back to the Joe Biden quote and you ask yourself, how did this become a substance that they decided, if you tested for it, that it would mean automatic ejection? And we know what the answer is. It was part of whatever remnants there have been for 100 years of reefer madness across the spectrum of cities and towns and countries and panic and irrationality. And again, we just can't seem to get past that. And then you add in the broad stupidity of the Olympic Committee and the rule makers on the Olympic Committee, who are arbitrary, they are bribed, they are compromised, they're out of touch. For a long time, none of them were under the age of 97. So everything is wrong with the story. So yes, on the most bare technical interpretation of what happened, yes, she broke the rules. You're gone. But if there is no room in the law, or even in a case like this, for compromise or understanding, or it's sad, it's terrible. I feel bad for her. And we could play the whataboutism games all day long about other people who have done things, gotten away with things. Or I think the first name that came up when this story broke was Michael Phelps.
Right.
Because Michael Phelps got nailed, but he got nailed out of season. He got nailed. Was it for marijuana?
You got caught drunk driving on more than one occasion.
Okay, but it was out of season. It was not a week before the Olympics. So he got a 2-month or 3-month suspension.
Mm-hmm.
It's like suspending an NFL football player right now for 6 weeks. You're out for there are no NFL games. Okay, I'll take the suspension. So Phelps got away with it, and she doesn't. So before we're done, where are we going to go with this story? You know where we're going to go. Why her, but not blank? And you just fill in the blank. Next story. Okay, unless you got anything more to say.
No, I think that's right. Is this too stupid for us to talk about? This guy's becoming a real problem. Clay Travis, who hosts the morning show on Fox Sports Radio and now is one half of the team that is taken over for Rush Hudson Limbaugh III, still using My City Was Gone as their theme song at noon every day. No, they're still absolutely as they.
Oh my God!
I had the privilege of listening on day one, and there was that beautiful bass line for the Pretenders opening up America and just begging people to compare them to one of the largest assholes in American history, Rush Hudson Limbaugh III. Fox's Clay Travis making an excuse for fake anthem controversy about the U.S. women's soccer team. You may have heard about this. They were actually in Mexico to play a game, and a World War II veteran played the national anthem on his harmonica. And immediately, at least one, I think it was some Canadian press agency, picked up the story that some of the American players turned their back to the guy who was playing the harmonica. As it turns out later, some of them turned to face the actual American flag. Some of them actually faced Pete Dupre, I believe is the name of the World War II veteran, making this a fake controversy. However, Clay Travis says it's okay for us to jump on a fake story because it's believable. Brad, is this too stupid for us to discuss?
It is too stupid for us to discuss, but it really goes under the headline of, well, this is what they do. This is a thing that they will pound for a few days until the next one comes along. So clearly, it is too stupid. It is too stupid to talk about. So
they're really.
I want to go back to these guys using the Limbaugh theme.
Yeah,
and of course, we can do 100 analogies, and this would have been as if Jay Leno would have continued to use Paul Anka's Tonight Show theme played by Doc Severinsen for 30 years when Jay Leno took over the Tonight Show. And of course he didn't do that. You can think about Jay Leno anything you want, but that would have been the dumbest. This is the dumbest thing ever. But on the other hand, I'm completely wrong about that, because the people who would still tune in to those right-wing sewer radio stations.
Yeah.
By the way, I think I can just start using that all the time. That was my description of
was.
radio as we got fired from WBT. I said, radio is a right-wing sewer. And WBT was, and of course still is. But it really, really describes those radio stations. And therefore, I guarantee you not one person is offended who is a core listener to Limbaugh and the succeeding show, because they just think they're saluting him, they are praising him, they're helping him live on with us. And of course, it's pathetic.
It reeks of to me it reeks of radio executives and or consultants getting involved. And to me, that's great, because that means these guys are going to die an awful death. It feels to me like, no, you want to use the same theme song because it really establishes the familiarity with the audience. To me, that's what it is. That's what it feels like. And I hope it really accelerates their doom, because obviously, if you have that theme song, people are going to mentally compare you to Rush Limbaugh, who, while being a tremendous asshole, had an amazing amount of talent. That to me was it, and these guys have nothing near that. So if they fall short in that comparison, then I'm all for that. But that's what it feels like to me, having gone through the rigors of really intelligent radio executives and consultants trying to get their fingers into the pie any way possible.
It just doesn't make any sense.
No.
At any level, really, except that the distorted brainwave field of right-wing sewer radio actually could be the exception to this rule. They're that crazy. They're that far down into the tank with the ideas.
Exactly.
This just makes me feel better about listening to this show. I feel better about listening. It's almost like I'm still listening to No, you're not. And
you and I talk to you and I know that a lot of people who are executives and who are in decision-making processes in that particular industry are not of the mindset of being conservatives. They're not. They fake it. They try to do, and this shows how much regard they have for that audience. It's so Pavlovian. That's all you got to do is just play the music. They'll drool and we'll get the ratings, and that's all that happens. And that's, to me, that's what this feels like. I mean, I could be wrong. Last one. Is this too stupid for us to talk about? Potential Herschel Walker Senate run in Georgia raising some GOP concerns. Herschel Walker, of course, the Heisman Trophy winner, one of the greatest college football players of all time, who did okay, but not great in the National Football League, really was the basis for the Dallas Cowboys Super Bowl runs back in the 90s because they traded him for a shit ton of draft picks. Brad, is this too stupid for us to discuss? Donald Trump is really in favor of Herschel Walker being the senator from the great state of Georgia.
Well, if you could help us here, what are the concerns? Because I have a this is a sidebar before we get back to that. I am demanding that reporters, journalists, stop with the crutch phrase, the crutch question that they use when they really have nothing of substance to ask someone about. It's a sentence that begins with, "Are you concerned about?" Mm-hmm. Okay, because no, they're not concerned. They wouldn't be talking to you if they weren't. Are you concerned that there could be another attack on the? Well, of course. Stop it. So stop using the phrase, "Are you concerned?" And this story is a perfect example of it. So what are the quote unquote concerns?
Directly from FoxNews.com, the increasing likelihood of a Walker candidacy has some Georgia conservatives scratching their heads, if I may. They're saying he will need to show that he is conservative, according to Representative Doug Collins, a Trump ally,
Ooh,
late
that's
last week on
racist
his radio program.
That's a
Yeah.
totally racist statement, because what
You
that's
think?
saying is when you look at him, he's a black guy. They're not really, they got to really prove that they're suck ups like Tim Scott or what's his name, the quarterback, J.C. Watts or whatever, one of those guys.
Many in the GOP are waiting for signals from Walker, the former star professional football player and college gridiron legend in the Peach State. He won a Heisman Trophy and helped steer the University of Georgia to a college football national championship, has been encouraged by the Trump run for the Senate, by Trump, rather, to run for the Senate. Wouldn't it be great if the legendary Herschel Walker ran for the United States Senate in Georgia, Trump wrote in a statement in March. He would be unstoppable, just like he was when he played for the Georgia Bulldogs and in the NFL. What are we missing there, Brad? Who did he also receive a check from when he played professional football?
He played for Trump.
That's exactly right. He got a shit ton of cash.
Yeah, can I examine this a little bit further? This really is too stupid for us to talk about, and here's why. Because it is a story that does not exist. It is, if the quote you're using is what Trump said 4 months ago about this offhandedly to someone somewhere on a morning interview with Fox and Friends about Herschel Walker. Here it is 4 months later. You know, Walker, he really doesn't have,
of course he doesn't,
how should I say it, the necessities to be a U.S. senator. He is, if I can make the comparison, since we have to use race here, Raphael Warnock, by any measure, is clearly a very, very extremely qualified,
correct,
intelligent, well-spoken, familiar with the issues senator. I mean, how many times I've seen him, and you know, how many times has a microphone been shoved in front of his face, and he's perfect. Yeah. He's excellent. Now, you may not agree with he's a liberal. You may not agree, but Herschel Walker knows nothing. No. He knows nothing. He's an idiot. Okay, there we go. He's an idiot.
People with sports backgrounds in college football in the South are getting elected to the United States Senate. Hi, I'm Tommy Tuberville. Have we met?
Well, so he's an idiot, but he's a white idiot.
Exactly.
And so he gets a pass.
So nobody said when Tommy Tuberville was running, nobody goes, you know, he's going to really have to show his bona fides as a conservative. We're going to need to see his DNA to make sure that this guy is a conservative. So there's your difference right there. I can play that tune in 2 notes.
Right. All right. Those are all too stupid to
easily
to talk about. So I'm glad we didn't waste any time.
That's right.
On any of them, because they were all just
too stupid.
They were just too dumb. All right. Let's talk about Carolina and Mrs. Jones. Okay.
Yeah.
Hannah Nicole Jones has said no to the University of North Carolina and their offer to give her tenure in the Knight Chair of Journalism at UNC after not wanting to give it to her. And so the vote went positive finally the other day. And you knew she wasn't going to take it, because it was so insulting. It was such a begrudging vote. And she's going to get the same gig at Howard University in Washington. Now, my take on this is that the Republicans, the conservatives who are on the UNC board that did this vote, okay, they're going to say nothing for a while. They're going to keep quiet. And they're going to treat this just like they treated January 6th. First, they're going to lie about it. Then they're going to pretend nothing happened. Okay. And then they're going to blame her. Sound familiar? I think that's what. First, they're going to go quiet on it, and secondly, they're going to start throwing in little dart. Oh, well, she ends up going to Howard University. We know what they are. It figures that she would run to the shelter of an all-black, mostly university where
and you know who also went to Howard? That awful Kamala Harris, who we hate so much and won't go to the border. That tells you what Howard's all about, right?
Right. So they're going to throw, so they can put their racism on the back burner for a little bit, let the story move forward, and then attack her for causing the problem that forced them to vote against giving her tenure initially, that they eventually changed on enough of them to give it to her.
Right.
And
it's her fault.
It's her fault. It's her fault.
They throw up their hands and go, hey, we gave it to her. She didn't take it. We did it. You know?
Yeah. What more did you want? What
exactly.
more did she want? She got what she wanted.
That's right.
You give them something and God damn it, they want more.
We made Barack Obama president of the United States and they just wanted so much more. They want all these other things. My God, it's the worst thing ever. Yeah, no, you're right. That's exactly how the story plays out. I don't blame her in the least for turning it down because, as you say, the whole thing was batted about. She was treated rather shabbily. And in the end, they finally said, okay, fuck it. Here's your tenure. That's essentially what they did.
I don't know if did you read Joe Killian's take on it, his version today?
Because I have not seen it.
She told Joe Killian that the minute it started to be a controversy, she got 20 calls from universities around the country saying, we'll take you. We'll be happy to have you. And so once you know that, then the thought that she would have ever actually accepted UNC after they first threw sand into the gears, you realize that this was an inevitability, that she would say no and go somewhere else. I wish it would have been Duke. I wish it would have been Duke so much.
How dare you?
Yeah.
That's the Joe Killian piece, and he has an exclusive, and I think this is the proper term of the exclusive interview with her at NC Policy Watch. If you want to go check that out, part of what bothers me about this story is that the folks who are in charge at UNC, they're not going to do like a triage on this, or they're not going to do a post-mortem on this to figure out, how did we fuck this up? And if anything like this comes up in the future, how can we avoid fucking this up again? I don't think they're going to learn any lesson from this. I really don't.
Well, there's two levels here. There's two levels. First, it's the Republicans in office in this state who forced this. And then there's the administration at UNC, which kind of acquiesced all along the way and didn't step out to defend her vigorously from the get-go. From the very second it started, they let her twist in the wind.
They did.
Too long. It didn't feel like she had that kind of support that you would want to fend off political interference, political intervention in a process that really should have been fairly perfunctory, but it wasn't. So my question is, does this incident alone knock the University of North Carolina out of that category of what we call public ivies? That's University of Michigan, that's UNC, that's UCLA.
Yeah.
These are public universities that really are William and Mary, University of Virginia. Does it knock UNC down a notch because of this? This is this hurts.
Well, I think there was always somewhat of an illusion on that stuff, but certainly since the Republicans have tried to gum up the works over the past several years at the University of North Carolina and tried to impose their will, because we've talked about this. It's been going back many, many years, certainly during what we call the civil rights era and those student protests in the 60s. It always galled a lot of folks around here that UNC got to act the way it did and the students were able to protest and stuff like that. So the Republicans couldn't wait to get in there and try to fix it. Quote unquote, fix it.
We know that. But up until recently, the university operated with enough autonomy
Yeah.
And there were enough layers in between them and politicians picking up the phone, or some alumni asshole in Texas donating $25 million and thinking he can run the show. That didn't happen. Now it's happening. So that's why I asked, does this hurt UNC's reputation, that much more?
Oh, I think it does.
And in addition, an inexperienced coach of the basketball team. That might hurt. He better bring it. He better bring it fast. They don't give you 5 years at UNC to keep it going.
There have been a number of activists that have said, when it comes to the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, that there have been some steps made to kind of rectify some past injustices against African Americans, but there have been in some cases, UNC has turned a blind eye toward this. And if you're someone who has a child who happens to be, I don't want to use that phrase anymore, an African American child, and you're like, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't send my kid here. Maybe I should look somewhere else. Maybe I should look in an HBCU like Howard University. Because I don't think that they're doing the right thing, and they treated this woman pretty badly in a very public way.
Right, but and that's all true. But I'm not talking about the racial issue specifically here. I'm talking about the reputation of the university. There's not one place in the country that doesn't have the same kind of problems you were just describing. I mean, why do HB historically black even exist? They exist because of that, and they still exist, and they're still thriving because
don't forget Pat McCrory, when he was governor, tried to shut one down. He tried to get rid of Elizabeth City State University, as you recall. So that's part of the reason is, no, I don't think you can separate the racial component of this, because that's part of what the Republicans who are trying to get their hands into the pie there at the University of North Carolina, they hate this wokeness. They're against it. And they this woman, part of her calling card, part of what Nicole Hannah-Jones had done was, the 1619 Project and her involvement in that. And instead of taking pride in that because she happened to have ties to the university, they saw this as a problem. This is a problem. We can't have this wokeness, her walking around with all this wokeness all over the place. Oh, no. And then eventually, when they were shamed into it, they basically said, here, fuck you, here's your tenure. And she goes, not so much. I'm not really interested. So I think there is a bit of a racial component, but I do think it damages the reputation of the university going forward. I don't think there's any question about it. As long as these yahoos are going to try to gum up the works and try to change things.
I just know from whatever small personal experience I have with two kids who went to school in North Carolina and then applied to colleges, and it was time. One of them had better grades than the other one, and the one with the better grades applied to 5 places around the country, got into all 5. One of them was UNC. The others were the University of Richmond, William and Mary, Brandeis, and Tufts. And
she was pretty dumb. She should have studied more.
And UNC, those 5. She got into all 5, and she was this close to going to UNC because of the cost, because it was a relative bargain compared to some of the other ones.
Absolutely.
But it turned out that everything worked out okay. She went somewhere else. But I'm thinking, if this was now, and my kid was exactly the same, nothing is identical, it can't be. But I just think the push, and this happens at every high school in this state, I think that, it's drilled into you that going to Carolina, unless you're really rich or something and you think that that's beneath you, that's a different category of people. That's what High Point University was invented for.
Dumb rich kids. Oh, I'm sorry. Did some truth spill out? Let me wipe that up.
But it is essentially drilled into you, and it's by tradition that UNC is it's a goal. It's an aspirational goal for kids who do really, really well.
Yeah.
And I just, it doesn't. It can take 100 years to build a reputation and 100 minutes to kill it. And I just wonder. We'll see.
It pains me to say this for folks who are detractors, but part of what you're saying was accurate, and I think part of it was marketing. I don't know if UNC is UNC anymore. I don't know if it is that quote unquote great university that I grew up with. I'm not sure if in 2021. I know there's a lot of great people doing a lot of great things there, and it's still a great place to get an education. But I wonder if on the edges and on the margins, enough of this stuff has been jacked with to where it ain't what it was. And that's the reputation that you talked about nationally, that people are going to go, yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, you don't even want to be thinking about it.
Exactly.
You don't want to be thinking about it. You want to go, hey, blue chip university, top of the heap, always at the top of the rankings, for whatever reasons those distorted rankings exist, and we know how screwed up they are. All right, okay, I think we've fixed that problem. We've certainly addressed it, and
I think that's it. Yes.
Now, yeah.
Everything will be fine from here on out.
Yeah. What else we got here? Oh, wait a minute. This is such a great story. I love this story. I just saw this one a few minutes ago. Here it is. This is just the best. We have a guy in Mount Laurel, New Jersey, which is right next to Camden, Philadelphia. It's right there. It's kind of a Philadelphia suburb.
Sure.
Friday, he gives out his address to somebody who's videoing him with their camera, and he challenged them to visit his house. Bring whoever. Cops identify the guy. His name was Edward Matthews, middle name Cagney, 45. So the video goes viral, and yesterday, hundreds of people show up at his house, and they start protesting. We want Edward. We want Edward. This is according to the Philadelphia Inquirer. So now the cops show up to protect him. Because as you know, police have nothing more to do than provide police protection to an ass. On
the 4th of July weekend. There's really nothing more.
So he comes out, tries to apologize, but the protesters are having none of it. Then a middle-aged blonde woman darts out from among the crowd, plants a kiss on Mr. Matthews, and says, "God bless you, sir." Then Marjorie Taylor Greene disappeared back into the crowd. Okay, I added that part. To it, but it is a real story.
As Clay Travis would say, it's believable, so it's okay for us to say that.
Yeah. That part is not true, but it's unbelievable. And by the way, his excuse is he's drunk. I was drunk.
That's not an excuse. I'm sorry. That's not a thing. What was it? What's that sleep drug that a lot of you baby boomers like to take a lot? And then when people
Ambien?
would say, yeah, wasn't there a period of time when people would do shit and they would blame it on Ambien? Like Joe Scarborough, he said fuck on Morning Joe one time and he blamed it on Ambien. And then there would be some other bad behavior and suddenly people would start blaming it on Ambien. No, I'm sorry. I know a lot of people who get drunk and don't invite people to their house and are idiots. I know a lot of people who do that. I'm sorry. I just don't. I know that's semi-anecdotal, but your drinking doesn't excuse anything or give you license to be a dumbass. Sorry.
Video appears to show Mr. Matthews approaching one of his neighbors and repeatedly getting into the man's face using the N-word, swearing at him.
That's unfortunate.
Mr. Matthews claimed, "I was born in America. This isn't Africa. Learn your laws. I can say whatever I want."
Let me ask you something.
Yeah.
In all the times that you've drunk alcohol, has the alcohol made you use the N-word? Has it just overpowered, taken control of your mouth and made you form the N-word?
No, but believe it or not, it enabled me to run the 100 meters in under 11 seconds.
Well, rules are rules. The rules are the rules, Brad.
Rules are rules, and you got to go by what they ask you to do.
I mean, in some ways, that's kind of the irony of this, because whenever the next Olympic Games are, because they had to skip the ones, I don't know, when eventually the Olympic Games they're going to be sponsored by these pot companies, right? The 2028 Olympics, the 100-meter dash we brought to you by Shikari. She'll have her own brand of pot, Shikari brand Kush. That's eventually going to happen, and not in my lifetime, and probably sooner, probably sooner than you think, before the end of the decade. That shit's going to happen. That's the irony of all that.
Yeah. Hey, did you see Marv Albert's last game on Saturday? Did you watch it?
I unfortunately did not check it out. I was not able. Did they do a fitting tribute to him?
Well, this was the Milwaukee Atlanta game 6. Milwaukee won, and when the game was over, they have that hour-long. It's just ridiculous. They're just goofing around.
It is.
Shaquille O'Neal and
Ernie Johnson,
Kenny Smith, and Charles Barkley. So they really can do whatever they want. So after the painfully difficult task of watching the coaches do their press conferences, boy, sports was so much worse when we didn't see the press conferences with the coaches after game.
It's better. It's way better
so
now.
Good now. Right.
You idiots back in the 60s and 70s. What dumbasses you were.
We had no idea. But anyway, so they get through that. And then you could tell it was going to open up here. And the three of them, Shaq wasn't there. The three guys, they're talking to Marv, and they're just saying the nicest things about him. For those of us of almost any age, in other words, under about 80, Marv Albert is the voice of the NBA. For a lot of people, maybe in the New York area, he was the voice of the New York Rangers forever. He loved to do hockey
correct.
too. He was pretty good at that. And I loved him as a play-by-play guy on NFL football. I thought he was great there because he didn't have to do the play-by-play because on TV you get to be yourself. You can just be.
If there's a way for this man to be underrated, if you ever saw him do boxing, he was a pretty good boxing announcer too.
Oh yes,
he was pretty. And people don't talk about that a lot because boxing is non-existent now. But when they used to show it on TV pretty regularly, and I used to watch a show called Sports World on NBC, which was their answer to Wide World of Sports, and they had him doing boxing, and that's when I first experienced him. I thought he was a really good boxing announcer.
Yeah, well, there wasn't anything he wasn't good at.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd forgot he really was in broadcasting for 65 years. He started when he was 15 or 16,
right?
And he was the play-by-play guy for the New York Knicks by the time he was like 22 or 23.
Correct.
Again, there will not be another one. And he very self-effacing. About it. You could tell he wasn't the kind of guy that wanted to talk about himself, but they were very nice. And it must be said that Charles Barkley was unbelievable. He was
really
unbelievably gracious. He says, look, I've been in the NBA now for a total of 36 years. And you have been the guiding voice all the way through. And there's hardly anything more thrilling than the first time you said my name.
Wow,
on a broadcast, and
that's pretty cool.
Barkley was very, very, very cool about it. Now, here's the question: 20 years ago, Marv Albert got involved, and got in a lot of trouble, and got fired from his job, for being involved, and I can't even remember the details now.
He was involved
in a hotel room with a woman. There was a bite mark on her. Some kind of crazy shit like that.
I think it was a bit more than a bite mark, and there was some question as to whether it was consensual or not. And I think he ended up settling the lawsuit, and he lost everything for a few years, and then eventually came back. But is your question, if it happened today, would he be just permanently canceled and thrown out?
I guess I don't even have to ask the question.
So
that brings up the issue: are we better off now than we were 20 years ago?
You got me on that. I don't know what the answer to that is. I'm not sure what the answer to that is. It's very difficult in these days to separate the artist from the art, right? As much as you loved Bill Cosby when you were young, and I loved Bill Cosby when I was young, and now you can't look at it the same way. And I always thought Kevin Spacey was an amazing actor, and I loved a lot of Kevin Spacey movies. It's always very difficult to separate the artist from the art, right?
Yeah. I mean, like in the case of Bill Cosby, why do I have a feeling we're not even in about the third inning of this story? Because could you think he's actually serious in thinking he can go back out there? And I mean, first of all, I thought he was blind. I thought he was infirm. What happened?
Yeah.
I guess, 2 years in prison, that'll make you healthy immediately. Everybody always says how great you feel while you're in prison. It really does wonders.
Remember the guy who was in the Oval Office before the current guy used the term vindication as a cudgel. And I just feel like that's he's going to vindicate, and then supposedly to show your support of real America against woke America, you're going to go see Bill Cosby. I don't know if that's what he's thinking, or I'm not sure.
I can't imagine, because remember, he was not exonerated of his crimes.
No, but
this wasn't a case where they found the DNA of some other guy, and now that guy's going to prison, and Cosby got let out because he was unfairly convicted.
The story from his camp is, I mean, that's essentially the story, is that he has
but that's just not the story.
It's absolutely it's a complete lie.
Yeah,
and you will find some people who will parrot that, but you're right, it's not. It was a technicality, and that's why he's walking around free.
Yeah, and you could argue it wasn't even a technicality. It really was a violation of the rules, and you have the right. This is terrible to say. You have the right to strike a confidential settlement with people and pay them to go away and leave you alone if you're willing to sit there in civil court, confess your sins, and then say, I did it, but here's money. Everybody needs to be quiet about this, and you can't talk about what I just said. And then the criminal side picked up what was said in the civil trial and used it 10 years later to go after Bill Cosby. And his lawyers said that was illegal all along, and the Pennsylvania Supreme Court agreed that the Cosby got railroaded that way. But that doesn't mean that they didn't do. I mean, he had already admitted he did all this shit. So it makes him no martyr. It makes him no legal martyr. He's not like the guy who was in prison for 30 years for a murder he didn't commit. And that's what they're trying to position this as. And I think you're right that there are going to be enough people who will not know those simple facts. They're not interested in hearing them. And I'm wondering if there is such a thing as the formerly Bill Cosby supportive media, if there was a section of that, and I need to be careful here, right? As I say this, because there was some.
Well, Fox News was supportive.
Will twist this or leave out facts. Again, we're always back to January 6th.
Which is it's a 6-month anniversary today as we speak right now.
Right. So the time passes and suddenly, Bill Cosby. And I'm surprised the petitions aren't already out there to restore his sitcom to Nick at Night. Why are they? Because he's out of jail. Okay, so
who's gonna book him again? I would encourage Hillsdale and Liberty University and all these other horseshit places to open up their massive auditoriums to the Bill Cosby tour. That you can have it at those places, and you can kill woke America or whatever the hell you guys are trying to do.
Boy, I don't think that's going to work.
I don't either.
I don't think it's going to work.
I don't either.
It shouldn't. And he goes into the Trump Bernie Madoff category that I have of, look, he got away with it for 70 some years. Okay, so too bad. You got nailed at the end, and then we always say, well, would you trade 70 years, 75 years of that shit if you knew at the very end that it would all be exposed and you would be a pariah forever? That's what Trump is fighting right now. He's fighting himself. He's fighting his 45, 50-year public career,
correct,
of dishonesty and theft and disregarding the laws that apply to everyone else. And they're trying to turn it around and saying it's not fair to apply the law to Donald Trump that you don't apply to everyone else, which eventually gets you back to, why does anyone who makes a lot of money, why do they ever get audited? What about all those other people? That's where you get to. right? And of course, the answer is you should be auditing the people in the top 1% way more, because that's where the money is. That's where the cheating is really, really going on.
But those people also can afford lawyers and accountants that represent themselves. And those guys eventually end up getting away with stuff. But it's a guy that makes $35,000 a year that makes an error on some sort of donation to a charity, and he gets nailed.
One of the arguments that Republicans make against some of the legislation that is being held up or screwed with in the House and the Senate is, because Joe Biden wants to put a lot more money into the IRS and start enforcing the laws. Now, remember, for your entire life, you've heard every person who runs for president say that there are zillions of dollars that go uncollected that are legally owed. Yeah. And if we just collected that money, we wouldn't have as big a deficit or whatever. All right. It was true then. It was true 10 years ago. It's true today. So, of course, if Joe Biden does it, naturally, he's conducting class warfare on the rich unfairly. If the bulk of the audits are going to go towards upper income people, that's a war on rich people, as always. But it's not. Clearly, you owe the money. You should be paying the taxes, and it shouldn't depend on how good your accountant is. It's not going to work. I don't know where it's all gonna end up here, but Cosby, I mean, he's an idiot. He really is an idiot, because he is now the luckiest man in the world. By the way, just watched Pride of the Yankees 2 nights ago. It was just Major League MLB Network runs it in prime time, and so we had it on. And Lou Gehrig was the luckiest man in the world.
That's what he said.
Of course, he was dead very soon after.
That'll be fine.
And
is that your favorite Gary Cooper movie? Because mine is Sergeant York.
Pride of the Yankees is just such a hokey.
Yeah.
I still can't figure out whether, has this been proven true or not true, that Gary Cooper was a right-handed hitter, and they flipped the number on his jersey.
Yeah, I think that's true.
And then they flipped the film around so it would look like he is a left-hander. It's been debunked, hasn't it?
I think it has. In a way, I believe the Gary Cooper movies, like conventional wisdom, is High Noon #1 by far. I would put Meet John Doe at #2. Then I go Sergeant York. Then I get down to Pride of the Yankees. That's me. I mean, that's all I'm saying.
That's because you hate the Yankees.
That's what it's all about.
You hate the Yankees. All right.
There's nothing to hate anymore. They suck.
Good to be back. Well, let's try this again tomorrow. By the way, I like the concept.
Is this too stupid to talk about?
Shit too stupid to talk about, and then you talk about it.
That's going to be, that'll be popping up again. You're going to see that in the act quite a bit.
If I do say it's too stupid to talk about, and then I say, and we are actually not going to talk about it, then we have to stick to that.
You got to cut it off. That's the end of it.
But it's hard because
there's a lot of stuff that's too stupid.
By the way, America may run on Duncan. We run on stupidity.
That's true.
We
it is true. It is our fuel, just like carbs.
It is.